Greetings, dear TV friend, and thanks for joining us on another edition of Women's Voice on Divine Mercy Radio Television, a platform where we come to discover or to discuss problems and provide possible solutions to problems facing women and girls in our community, and of course, boys and men inclusive. Today, we want to look at the crucial role women and young girls play in the environment, protecting the environment, keeping the environment clean and staying clear and clean from pollution. We know women play a crucial role from cleaning or from trying to clean their communities to other things of maybe advocating for other women or trying to just educate other women on how to play a crucial role or to be part of these movements. So today we got a team of experts here this evening to talk on how women or the role women and girls can play in protecting the environment, be it pollution, be it waste management. We want to find out how we women, you watching us right there, me or us here in the studio, how we could facilitate waste management and pollution that is protecting our environment. We have an incredible team here, panelists here to talk to us on ways in which we could actually do that, propose possible solutions or policies and ways in which women and young girls can partake in these movements. Today with us we have Madam Quinta Yochi, who is the CEO of Association for the Socially Vulnerable and also a visionary of social change movement called Gender Actors for Sustainable Climate Action, and she's also a 2025 fellow of Women for Environment Fellowship. Good evening, ma'am, and thanks for joining us today.
Good evening, dear. Thank you for having me.
It's a great pleasure to have you after a while.
Always a pleasure to be here.
We also have with us Gweto Wanka, who is project coordinator for the Foundation of Hope Cantor and a PhD fellow at the University of Boya, researching on climate change impact on agriculture and food insecurity in Mezam subdivision in the northwest region of Cameroon. Good evening, ma'am, and thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Okay, it's a pleasure to have you. We also have a male in the house with us today, and this person is Lotun Stephen, a developmental actor with 10 years experience across Africa and currently head of operations at Hope Spring. Good evening, sir, and thanks for coming.
Good evening, madam. Thank you for having me.
It's a great pleasure.
Yes.
And today we want to explore the ways or come up with possible solutions on how we can advocate for, or we could empower women out there to actually advocate for themselves, keep the environments clean, stay clean from pollution and waste management tips. So after the break, we're going to dive straight into our discussion. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're on to Women's Voice on Divine Mercy Radio Television, and today we are looking at the role played by young girls and women in environmental protection. Of course, the topic will be displayed on your screen, and you can get to us and give your contribution via the numbers that will be displayed on your screen, SMS or WhatsApp, and we will be glad to share with you or share your contributions. And straight into our conversation of today, Madam Quinta, I want to find out from you, what are some of the most pressing environmental issues affecting our community, and how do they impact our daily life?
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here again to talk about serious issues affecting our communities. It is very clear, using Boya as an example, the kind of issues that are going on when it comes to our environment. We're going to look at our environment in a few ways. We're going to look at the space where man is living. We're going to look at the space where the animals are living. We'll look at the space where, you know, other biodiversity is living, you know. And if you look at, because those are clear things that are around us. If you look at, say for example, Boya, what is the environment in Boya? how is it like for for human beings, for men, women, boys, girls, for children in Buea? You, our host, the panelists, we are here, we can attest that just driving around Buea is so difficult because it's difficult to navigate around Buea in the sense of transportation because the roads are deplorable. Sometimes you find gutters that are stuck with a lot of dirt. So we're talking about bad roads. We're talking about waste, as in natural waste, as in debris. We're talking about damages of other things like, for example, electricity poles that are hanging all over the place, posing as risks of different kinds of disasters. The condition is complex, and so it is very important that we begin to raise our voices. I know that some people have attempted, or I shouldn't say attempted, I should give credit for raising awareness on these issues, but for a matter of fact, it seems like nothing is going on as in being addressing the situation. So we are here again today to continue to talk about environmental issues that are not sitting right for us as human beings in our community, especially here in Buea for us, and probably in other parts of Cameroon. So yeah, we're looking at the aspects where we have deplorable roads where it makes it difficult for people, to commute, and cases where there are lots of waste around the community. We have household waste, we have business waste, because so many people operate so many different kinds of businesses. We have so many people who are selling, for example, soft drinks, sodas, and the plastic bottles end up in gutters and other parts of the town with nobody or no structure taking responsibility over that. And we cannot just keep on like that.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Madam Quinta. And to you, Mr. Lotum, how does the current state of waste management and pollution, because we know maybe in our town today, maybe let's limit it to Buea, there's a lot of mismanagement of waste. You move every now and then, you find waste all over the streets, and people just burn dirt or whatever they are burning at their convenience. So how do you think the current state of waste management and pollution affects the health and well-being of young girls and women?
Okay, thank you so much for having me here. And I think for being here, I would say it's gender inclusive. Because being the only man, I think I'm privileged.
You are.
Okay, going back to what the question you have posed, I think I will take a viewer-centered approach.
Okay.
Which one, the viewer need to understand what environmental protection is. Because we don't just need to assume that they know. At times they may not know.
Of course.
But I think as a developmental worker, making things very simple, with very simple language, I feel the viewer should understand that when we talk of environmental protection, we're just talking about ways of safeguarding the environment. Protection is safeguarding, environment is your surrounding. Nothing changes, just big grammar out of nothing. So now, what we are saying here is that from your question, when you look at things like waste management, this leads down to the area of pollution, be it air pollution or environmental pollution. But at the end, you see this causes clogging of waterways, which result to flooding within our ways. I will take this stretch from the police station, the Buea police station, Moliko police station, down to Checkpoint. You notice that when it rains, that place becomes very, very inaccessible. It takes you a longer time trying to get to Checkpoint than when it does not rain. Then that is one of the effects of these things, because improper waste disposal block waterways. Then outside that again, you see that this goes down to the level that young girls, these blocks at the end is causing streams, waterways to dry up. Then if you see people are living around Munya, these waterways are blocked areas where water used to pass before. Then it's now reducing the level at which these people can have access to clean water. That some have to trek a longer distance before they can have access to clean water. Some have to go a long way before they can even. So now, if you see, if a young girl has to go a long distance before she gets access to water, you see that it poses a risk for her even treat herself during period of menstrual health. It affects her menstrual health. Then again, access to water to use at home. They spend longer time trying to get water, and again, even spending longer hours at night. And this can lead to abuse, gender-based violence. So we feel that if there is proper waste disposal, it can reduce the risk of all these things. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Mr. Lordson. And to you, Madam, what to you, or how do these diseases related to poor environmental conditions affect young girls and women in our community?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today. I feel like having to educate women on how to sort waste would go a long way to help with the diseases that we have out there. One of it is if we train women on how to sort out domestic waste, as in taking out what can decompose and keep or throw behind the house or keep somewhere where it's safe, and then trying to keep plastics away, then we'll not get these plastics laying all over the place. And also waste, or this kind of waste in the landfills, can cause diseases, and they go a long way to affect women especially and girls, because most often than not, remember, we are living in a patriarchal society where it's women that are the custodians of our homes. So it's women that stay home when a child is sick, or is a girl child that absents from school to look after the younger brother or the younger sibling that is sick. So most often than not, when we throw this this waste all over the place, we are keeping flies and snakes and all these dangerous things around, which can also in turn affect our girl, because most often than not, is a girl child that doesn't go to school. In case of anything or any sickness or anything, the child stays home. A clear example is in the school where I teach. Most often than not, when the girl comes in late, you ask them, they'll tell you it's a child. It's a child that was sick or something. So if we begin to reduce this waste around our environment, then we can begin to also protect our girl children and therefore encourage them. So we can start by encouraging them to sort out the waste at home, because most often than not, when we see these refuge dorms, everything included. So if we sort the waste, it will reduce the amount of waste. And also we can begin to encourage recycling. And then we begin to talk about a circular economy. When we talk about circular economy, we are talking about keeping things in use for longer periods. For example, this cell phone, you can keep your cell phone for 10 years. So keeping it longer in use, because we don't have places where we can go and recycle the cell phone. Even these plastics, once we start recycling them, we are removing them away from the streets, because we use them for long, we keep them for long. So therefore we are doing promoting this recycling. So if we begin to promote recycling, we not find blockages in gutters with plastic bottles and all of that. So for me, I think this issue of waste affects more the women and children. A woman will not go to work if the child is sick. The woman stays home, take the child to the hospital. If the child stays in the hospital for 3 days, you will not go to work for 3 days. So therefore, I think it affects women more than men.
Okay, thank you very much for that contribution. And you mentioned the part of recycling. I think that's one of the ways of waste management. So maybe we could dwell a little on some of these ways of waste management before we delve into the other part of our discussion. When we want to talk about maybe some of what are some of the potential risks or consequences of inaction, like you talk of illnesses and all the like. So maybe we want to look at some of those potential risks or illnesses of inaction on environmental issues affecting our society.
Okay. Just like you said, we talk of pollution. if you look at pollution here, you see that pollution has a very long way to go in somebody's life. Because by the nature of man, you are supposed to be taking in oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. So taking in anything outside oxygen is harmful to your health. Then we will look at the issue of economic importance. Just like she said, if a woman's child is sick, the woman cannot go to work. Maybe at times the girl child has to even miss school because she has to stay home to take care of the younger one. The wife has to stay with the child in the hospital. Then if that child is somebody who is working somewhere or who is doing a business, you see that it has affected her own life and even affected the IGA of the nation. She's a taxpayer. Both directly or indirectly, she goes to the market, she pays tax. So if she's not in the market, the government is losing. She is losing as a family. And that is going to affect the family, even down to the level of providing for her family and also education. So I feel these are various ways, not taking care of the environment and improper waste disposal affect the society.
Thank you very much. Quinta, maybe you have something to add?
Yeah, thank you very much. Seriously, this is quite a very it is very emotional to talk about because
the smoke pouring out.
It is very emotional to talk about because it feels like we're pointing out all these lapses. Well, not all these lapses. We're pointing out some of these lapses, but then I want to say that some of these lapses, some of these solutions as some that we can be able to handle at the level of our homes, just like she mentioned. We can practice household waste management in the sense that we can separate our waste, bottles, perishable, non-perishable, and dispose them. But unfortunately, it's not a practice in our community. It is not structure. If you do that, who is going to pick them up and dispose them rightly? So it is not a right. It is not a culture in our community, and it is something that we are appealing for a collective action to ensure that we change the culture in our community. Because if we don't change, we will not see change, and change has to be inclusive. It has to involve children, youth, the adult, in various age brackets. So it also requires certain resources, which sometimes we have them, sometimes we don't have them. Even the location where garbage or waste can be disposed of and things like that. Most of us know that there's just one. Most of us know about one location at the outskirts of Munya, but so when that, I feel like as of now, it is saturated. So what next? The complaints. It feels as if the responsibility of waste disposal, which has been centralized, it has been given as a responsibility to a particular company. I think that it is something that needs to be revised. I think that many more people and companies should be involved in the structure of proper disposal of waste in our community. So we're talking about everybody in the community being involved. We're talking about making waste management structural. We're talking about decentralizing, those who are responsible for certain roles, as in, for example, heavy waste management or waste disposal, which of course requires heavy trucks, heavy vehicles, which requires some kind of manpower, which not everybody may be able to provide, and of course even the material, because you don't expect somebody to just go and start carrying some rotten stuff and dumping into a truck without wearing a mask, without wearing gloves, without wearing maybe boots that are covered up, and maybe some aprons and things like that to cover them up properly, and even also disinfecting the environment even after disposing of the waste. Is there any proper disinfection of the area. So it is something that is very crucial for us to look into as a community, from the grassroots to key governmental officials. We need to come together. I wish somebody with influence like the governor could take it as a challenge that in 2025 I am going to, take an individual initiative, not looking at the Buea Council, not looking at the regional delegation of maybe urban development and housing, not looking at anybody else, but organize, for example, Buea as the regional capital, organize the community members. I'm sure he can pull a heavy fan club when it comes to that, an environmental fan club. Your Excellency the Governor, this is an idea I'm sending over to you. I will be one of your environmental fan club members, the moment you choose to launch that, and I'm ready to join others to mobilize the population of Buea to embark on a 2025 clean city, and hopefully we will see some remarkable change, because he can influence the provision of resources.
Okay.
Okay, I want to add on the issue of culture. Remember, we don't have a culture of cleanliness. People throw dirt anywhere, anyhow. But in the West, you look at somebody would not throw something through the window from a car. So once we start changing our culture, remember, culture is not something that is static. We can begin to start training our children at home to learn how to dispose of refuge properly, and the issue of separating dirt in the house, it's something that we can inculcate into our children. Remember, we are living in a patriarchal society where it's always the girl children, it's always the girl child that does the cleaning. Therefore, the separation of dirt and all of that what falls upon the girl child. So therefore, if we begin to start training our girl children on how to separate waste, on how to do it at the household level, then once you learn at the household level, you get to the market, it's easier to do that. So as women, we can start advocating for that, training our children, telling people that it's not proper to sit in a vehicle and throw something out of your window. Once we start taking that into consideration, we will not find litter all over the place. And then we insist also on recycling. Recycling is very important when it comes to waste management. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, very well.
My colleagues have spoken very well. And to add more light to that, I think, just like they have said, to me, I believe that the man has the house, the woman has the home. The home entails the management of every affair that has to do with that building. The house is the building, the home is everything that has to do with that building. The man has the house, the woman has the home. So now, I feel as CSOs, as a developmental actor, I will be an advocate that humanitarian organizations to start carrying out projects that build the resilience of people within communities to manage their affairs. Managing their affairs, yes, to make them understand that waste disposal or waste management begins and ends with them. Because even if the mayor comes out here and start dropping waste bins all around Buea, but if people don't go to deposit waste within those waste bins, you go to where Isaac has dropped this, sorry to mention the company's name, but if you go to where they have these waste bins, sometimes people still come, that thing is empty, but they will drop this waste on the floor. It's a culture, just like she said, it's a culture. So now, adding more to that, I feel that we have recycling companies. They are companies, they need to come on board. We need to partner with them as CSOs. They need to come on board, and we need to make waste disposal profitable.
Okay.
Why I'm saying profitable is because it should be that there should be centers where people who are collecting plastic, the companies that are recycling plastic, know that if people come to this place and deposit plastic, we can come and give them tokens and take these plastics. The people that are now separating this waste, just like you said at home, we know that this is where we can take this waste to go and make money.
Okay.
I'll give you an instance. Before now, you go on the street and you see metals on the road. You see aluminiums. Now it's very difficult. You see people going from one place to another, hunting, looking. They take magnets, looking for even little metals on the ground, even to the point of nails. So they can take these things, go and weigh them on a kilo and make money. So if we start learning how to make money from this waste, generating money from waste, a few people will buy into these ideas.
Okay.
So that's another contribution I want to make.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lotun. And just like you all have said, paying more attention to culture, all of this comes from within, from the parents at home. If you teach or you bring up your children such that they are aware that you do not litter, no matter where you are, no matter how the situation, whatever you eat and you feel like you have to trash something, you keep it in your bags or you preserve them and put them where there is a trash, is going to help. Also looking at maybe the younger generation, you want to let them know on waste management. You might say, okay, the other ones are older, and so what about a child of 2 years old? You see a child will just eat puff balls and the next moment he or she is dropping the paper. And what does a mom say? Let's go, it's fine. It's not okay. Parents should try to bring up their children such that they are aware that you should not litter. No matter how small you are, whatever you have, you trash it somewhere where it could be gathered and put in one place. It's very important. Like you also mentioned, people in taxis or in cars, you just eat and you litter. You just say your hand out of the windows, and that if that could also be incorporated as a fine, wherever they see you in a car, you're littering around, you should really pay a fine for that. Because okay, Mommy.
Yeah, I want to, yes, sorry, I didn't really mean to cut in, but I got moved when you talked about the fine. This all boils down to structure. It means that if there is a structure put in place which entails, for example, policies, that's why I'm saying that at the end of the day, it is a collective action. You know, my peers have already stated the various ways, you understand. But what is going to move these people to practice this is when there is a law. And that law comes with a fine. And that law is expected to be implemented and is expected to be effective. When laws are implemented without effectiveness, people just do anyhow because they know that they're not going to be punished. So a law gets effective when there is, you know, punishment associated to, you know, maybe corporate or deviant. So just to add that, I mean, we have a system. We have we are expected to be a law-abiding system, and this aspect of the, you know, of the environment or of our community should not be neglected. Those who are responsible to making sure that there is supposed to be, you know, a sustainable, a resilient environment, they should do their job. You understand? Because I don't think that Buea is is just left without protection. I believe that there are structures that are in place to ensure that they could actually follow up to see that they put, for example, focal points. If you know that, for example, you drive across, for example, there's a certain sand bridge there. You have to hold, maybe, for example, whether it's the chief or the how do you call them, the quarterhead. You can hold them responsible. You understand? That is law. They are, put in place by law, and they are expected to take certain responsibilities. And so those are, to me, as much as I agree with everything that they have said, but what is going to make these people to actually change and begin to practice, good practice, it requires a level of law and some punishment attached to it for defaulters.
Sorry to cut you.
Okay. That's all right.
I have something to add with what our brother has just said. He says that people go and throw refuge out of the bins that have been put there. But remember, who are those going to empty the trash cans? They are children. They are young children who cannot even reach right up to that. So our cans, those cans that have been put in place where people can throw, should be accessible so that those small children can easily dump their trash inside. If you cannot reach, there's no way a small child can be able to reach. Even myself, it's difficult for me to throw in. How much more of our little children who go down there to throw the trash. So what I think what should be done in that light is also for them to kind of try to look at the sizes and the height of those bins that have been put in place, and they should increase the number of bins. I cannot walk like 20 30 meters to go and throw trash. What happens most often is that our neighbors just throw them to the nearest farm, nearest place available. That's why we have litter all over the place.
Thank you very much. And we also want to look at maybe the relevance of waste management, or relevance of young girls and women in waste management, taking it to our very local communities. How can we involve young girls and women, or how can we make them to implement effective waste management or environmental protection?
I guess one of the ways in which we can get women involved is by encouraging people to use and reuse the things that we have. For example, take for example the Saxamoto. Every day we go to the market, we buy
A new one.
and you throw them. You find all over the place those bags. So one of the things we should do is try to reuse and use those bags. So once we keep them longer, then we'll not find them all over the place. And in coming to policies, if they can increase the prices of those bags, once you know that you go to the market, you buy those bags, those our shopping bags, we commonly call them Saxamoto. So once you go to the market, you know you're buying it for 500, it will become very difficult for you to go to the market without one. So you would reuse the one that you have. So on the part of policies, they can put in place policies where those bags are expensive. Because when they become expensive, people reuse the ones that they have. So encouraging what we call in economics circular economy, where things, you expand the lifespan of the things that we are using. Also in other places, they encourage degradable bags, shopping bags that are degradable, so that if you throw it in the field, it gets rotten, and then it doesn't affect the environment. So for me, those are some of the things that we can begin to think about.
Okay.
Okay, to add to what she have said, I think we need to look at the area of capacity building. We need to build the capacity of persons, mostly women and girls. Because when you train someone, the training doesn't end there. If I'm training her here, it means she's just the first beneficiary. There's somebody behind her who's going to get the same education through her, and it continues like that. Maybe the things I'm doing today were things that were taught, from my father, or through somebody I learned from. So I feel learning is a continuous thing, and we should keep on building the capacity of persons in the area of protecting the environment. Then outside that again, I feel she spoke about production of degradable materials. I think that will go a very long way. To go very, very, very long way. And outside that, we have to make persons understand that environmental protection begins with them. No matter what the government will do for you, it's good that you should do little for yourself first.
That's right.
Protect your environment first, then the government comes in to do the little or more from what you are doing. So I feel these are steps we should take. Build the resilience of persons to understand that everything within the environment begins and ends with them. Anything coming outside is external and is additional. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution. I also want to look at some of the policies, like you all mentioned. Are there any environmental protection policies that exist? Maybe there is something that do's and don'ts of environmental protection. If there are, you could just outline. Or how can girls or young girls and women, we're talking of protecting the environment, or maybe focusing on waste management. We also have pollution. How can these women be sensitized, be educated on staying off pollution? We have most especially air pollution, water pollution, and all of that. What can be done for these women to be aware that there are a lot of health hazards attached to this pollution?
Okay, I will still come into that. You're talking about the area of pollution. Most pollutions are man-made.
Okay.
At least within us here in Africa. they are man-made, and women too constitute high level of pollution. Then first, I was discussing with a colleague some days ago. I was talking of on the area of trying to reduce the use of disposable pads.
Okay.
You'll be surprised that if you take statistics of women who burn pads at the end of the month after their menstrual cycle, you'll be surprised at the level of gas emission that is caused onto the atmosphere.
Okay.
I think women should be taught now on how to go on using reusable pads now than disposable pads. It will go a very long way. Then again, just like I spoke about capacity building, one, we should look at areas of how we can recycle our waste.
Okay.
The sacks and bottles she was talking about, some of them are burnt. We should see how we can reduce doing these things. We can see how we should reduce bush burning. People go to farms, women go to farms. Women contribute almost 70% of agriculture in Cameroon. How they burn the bush? There are chemicals you can spray, which at times you don't even, it's not advisable, but due to the fact that it's costly to engage mechanized farming, then the time it takes to cut grass or weed is longer than people use chemicals, but we should reduce the rate at which we burn bushes. Then burning of forests and some other ways I feel if we take these measures, we will reduce pollution.
Thank you very much. And I also want us to look at, while talking of waste management, and I also want it to be a point of focus for women who always rush to the market, like you say, and they're always in the haste to get new bags, new sacks and motors, as we put it. But then you should always remember to always clean as you go. I think that's a policy also for waste management. Clean as you go. When you get back home from maybe the market and then you have all those plastics and all those bags, maybe you just want to wash them and dry them off. Once they are clean, you keep them. That is also going to help with waste management and pollution, keeping us safe from diseases. I'm also looking at those mothers in remote areas who find it very difficult to actually do waste management. What can they actually do in their own simple ways or in their own community ways to actually make sure that they manage these waste and also stay clean from illnesses or health hazards?
Okay, thank you very much. I want to first of all commend the work that the regional delegate of women's empowerment, and the family, Mrs. Lucia Ediage. She is ensuring that the Women Empowerment Center, which is actually in under the direction of Madame Stella Topgima, make sure that women use this resource, this center, to actually get trained in a very comfortable way, in the sense that it's a safe space for especially grassroots women. And they've been organizing some of these trainings, and I want to use this opportunity to appeal that they should endeavor to include trainings like waste management trainings with these women, so that they can be able to contextualize it in their various areas. Say, for example, at the Women Empowerment Center, where they are carrying out training on sewing, clothes making, cooking, computer. I think that environmental protection, it should also be a priority. It should be something that they should hopefully at the beginning of the new year or program, they should maybe try and maybe launch that department. I also want to appeal okay, let me put it this way. You understand that policies can be made at the level of our homes, just as like how we've been talking. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that is actually approved in or voted in parliament, which of course it's still really good. It can be, so it can begin from our homes. When you go to, for example, organizations like civil society organizations, some of them have policies like gender policies, they have like child protection policies, they have like human rights policies, but it's hard for you to come across an organization or a home or even an office that practices environmental policies. So we have to localize environmental policies. I remember in 2023 when we experienced in Buea deadly floods in March and April in 2023, our organization mobilized the community to actually carry out workshops, and also workshops with the council, where the deputy mayor of Buea Council chaired the meeting with grassroots women and some women's rights defenders to actually understand how grassroots women can be given access to actually be a part of the leadership processes when it comes to flood disasters and things like that. But what was key was that one of the things that we are happy with that project was that the Buea Council opened up access for over 40 grassroots women from around Buea. They opened up access for them to be able to review the town planning policy with the Buea Council, which is something very applaudable. So so Buea Council, we are appealing with you, the Lord Mayor and the other chief of services of the various departments like sanitation, hygiene and sanitation, and town planning. We started working, collaborating to ensure that we scale the work that you're doing. There's a lot more to be done. We want to appeal that the environmental policy which Buea Council promised that they are going to effect in Buea, we are still hoping to get that done, and that we are still reminding them that the civil society and the rest of the Buea population is willing to mobilize behind them to ensure that we continue to address certain issues in Buea which cause environmental pollution. For example, the clogging of housing, building houses in gutters is a very terrible issue that has been called or has been pointed out for about 5 years plus now, with the increase of influx of people from other parts because of the crisis. So it's like people are pushed to just construct houses in wherever they feel like they can afford. But we are calling on Buea Council and appealing that they should actually ensure that they put in place the laws that are necessary for us to have environmental resilience. I'll just put a comment.
Okay, thank you, Madam.
Okay, if we begin to do what we call recycling and reusing of things, we are not only going to improve on the environment, but we can also create what they call in green jobs. Those kind of jobs, because if we start employing youth or women to sort out, because once you sort out you get paid. For example, if you bring manure to the council, you give them, they pay you. So those things can be sold to places that need them. For example, Buea is very fertile, they might not need it, but if they carry them and go to Bamenda, it will be very expensive. My mother says they buy a bag of artificial manure for about 20-something thousand. So imagine if we can prepare those, they buy from the youth, you take your plastic, you go there, they buy, and we do all of that. We are creating not only jobs, but we are also protecting the environment. So we should start looking at how we can create these green jobs, people sorting out waste, people treating the waste, and also people who dispose of the waste. Another way of disposing is selling. We sell this plastic to companies that can use them to create other things. Like the other day, we were talking about how plastics can be reused to build pavements. Buea needs those pavements. So if there is somebody that is doing that, they can be encouraged, giving some capital for them to employ people to come and work. And we reuse these ways to build pavements. which will also go a long way to save our communities.
Thank you very much for that contribution. And I was going to call to action for stakeholders, but Madam Quinta has really extended on that. I want to look at some of the, we're talking of local waste management tips. Are there some environment protection policies that every person on a daily can practice that is going to keep them safe from health hazards or pollution and all of that? Are there some of these things that people in their little communities can practice on a daily that is going to keep them free from maybe health hazards or pollution?
It's everything that we are saying. Remember, waste can be divided. We have waste that is household waste. If within your household you separate the waste, it already goes a long way to prevent plastic laying all over the place. Remember that some of these plastic containers and big plastic containers end up in those landfills, and mosquitoes and all of that lay eggs on those, because those things keep water and mosquitoes will lay eggs on them and all of that. So if we begin to separate waste, if we begin to encourage people bringing plastics and we give them small token, we will not find plastic anywhere in Buea. So people bring, if there's a place where we can bring, people can take from your house to that place. A lot of people will be taking it there to make a bit of money. So once that is encouraged, then we also begin to encourage companies that will recycle them. Once they start recycling and reusing them, we will not find them anywhere. So that, I think, for me, would be very important.
Thank you very much.
To add to what she have said, if there are no stagnant waters, you reduce malaria. And if they tell you the rate at which malaria kills children and even pregnant women in Africa, you'll be very surprised. So I feel if we reduce some of this improper ways of depositing waste, we are going to reduce malaria. Then if we reduce some of these landfills, you come to see that we are going to reduce some communicable disease. A chicken that leaves your house goes to where there is a waste garbage. You don't know what the chicken is picking there. It comes back to your house. Most households, you come to discover that they have places where they keep plates. They don't eat and wash plate at once. They keep these plates. A fowl goes to the bush where the waste is deposited, picks up anything there, comes back. The pick is in the plate, depositing bacteria there. Some of these people don't even use good sanitary material to wash these plates, and you see people eat and you see diarrhea and everything everywhere. So these are the ways. If you can help these people reduce the level at which waste is deposited everywhere, I feel we are going to reduce even expenditures in the households. Because health, if you look at how much people spend on health, you'll be surprised. Go and ask a woman who's operating a pharmacy in somewhere within the suburb area. Most people comment that issues of malaria, diarrhea and the rest, which some of these things are things that just because of improper waste disposal that causes some of these sicknesses. So I feel by teaching these people how to do these things in the right way is going to go a long way by even reducing the cost of expenditures in the households.
Thank you very much. Of course.
I want to add for something to the tourism sector. Buea has a touristic site that, I mean, like, it can generate so much income for not only Buea but also for Cameroon as a general. It has the entrance to Mount Fako or Mount Cameroon. This is how can I say it? It's a touristic site which, if we had development, I mean the kind of development that we had roads, we had potable water, we had we had structure. I mean, like, tourists will be flooding in here. But nowadays, I mean, even during the Mount Cameroon race, how many tourists or how many foreigners do even dare to come for the Mount Cameroon race? So I think that we are also losing a lot in this aspect, because, I mean, just about a month ago, visiting the Nelson Mandela House in Soweto. I mean, the number of tourists who were there. But now we have, a natural resource that's a mountain where the biodiversity that is there. People want to go there to see different kinds of plants, flowers, soil, even sometimes rocks. I mean, it can be a research ground for foreigners in a very great capacity. But unfortunately, who would want to come to a place where they would not even be able to maybe
Access.
even be comfortable to sit and eat with people in the community because there are heaps of dirt around along the gutters and all of that. So we are making an appeal that we should do a collective action for transformation of Buea and the rest of our country.
Thank you very much, Madam Quinta. And before we wrap up the program, maybe you have a message you want to convey to that woman watching us now, or that young lady, on how, or maybe a word of advice on how they can actually protect themselves or protect the environment where they find themselves.
Well, for me, I would want to appeal to that young lady that is disposing of household waste, to separate the waste, to put the degradable from the non-degradable. Those degradable waste can be kept in the house and reused as compost to plant food that will go a long way to feed the family. And for the non-degradable waste, they should be able to sort it out and keep it in a safe place where they can either dump it to the other trash cans, public trash cans, where they can be recycled.
Thank you very much.
Okay. For me, if I want to give that word to that young girl and that woman out there, first I want them to understand that they are not just victims of environmental degradation, because when they have to go far looking for water because water have dried, it makes them suffer. They should not just only see themselves as victims, but see themselves as champions to change. Because just like you say, if they will learn how to classify their waste, it will go a long way in helping others, or even helping their children in the future not to suffer the way they are suffering.
Okay.
So they should champion their cause.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to say that mothers, daughters should carry on conversations about cleanliness in their homes, in their surroundings, and wherever they find themselves, whether schools or offices. Please, I really want to appeal that it should be a conversation, and the more they talk about it, the more they're going to be convicted to act, the more they're going to be convicted to stop others who are malpracticing, the more they're going to be able to carry action to ensure that they transfer the culture, the change which they have made. So I really want to appeal that there should be a change of culture from nonchalance to actually begin action, conversation and action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Quinta. Thank you, Madam Wanka, for coming. And thank you so much, Mr. Stephen Lawton, for being part of the conversation today. And we hope our talks on the roles, maybe role played by women and young girls in waste or environmental protection out there, has helped you out there watching us be aware of the fact that the cleanliness begins at home, and you should be able to keep your environment clean in order to be free from health hazards attached to environmental protection. Always make sure you keep your environment clean and teach people out there, educate people out there on ways of which they could protect the environment and stay safe from health hazards. I've been your presenter today, Magdalene Wondo, and that wraps up our program this evening on Women's Voice. Stay tuned to Divine Mercy Radio Television for more interesting programs coming your way. As we all know, or as we all have heard, the news that is the news today is that we have a new Pope from the conclave that was holding in Rome. So stay tuned to Divine Mercy Radio Television as the updates or the developments on that continues. Have a